Mahmoud Darwish was born to Salim and Huraya Darwish on March 13, 1941, in Al-Barwi, Palestine. In 1948, his village was occupied by Israeli forces, and his family fled to Lebanon. They snuck back a year later, but their village, like hundreds of others, had been destroyed and incorporated into Israel. All that remained of Al-Barwi was the village cemetery. The Darwishes were categorized as present absentees and settled elsewhere in Palestine. Young Mahmoud witnessed and survived the obliteration, displacement, and internal exile that would mark the Palestinian tragedy and become central themes in his poetry. Darwish discovered the power of words early on and wrote fierce poems of resistance and love of land. As a young boy, he wrote a poem for the anniversary of the foundation of the Jewish state. The poem was an outcry from an Arab boy to a Jewish boy, and many years later, Darwish recalled the idea of the poem. You can play in the sun as you please and have your toys, but I can't. You have a house, and I have none. You have celebrations, but I have none. Why can't we play together? He recalls being summoned to see the military governor, who threatened him. If you go on writing such poetry, I'll stop your father from working in the quarry. But he didn't stop. Mahmoud Darwish's career was prolific, publishing over 40 books of poetry and 10 books of prose. He joined the Israeli Communist Party after high school and began writing poems for leftist newspapers. He left the country in the early 1970s to study in the former Soviet Union. Darwish was a member of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, but resigned in 1993 in protest over the interim peace accords that the late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat signed with Israel. Darwish moved to the West Bank city of Ramallah in 1996. In 2000, Israel's education minister, Yossi Sarid, suggested including some of Darwish's poems in the Israeli high school curriculum. When this suggestion was announced, everyone from Jewish hardliners to then Prime Minister Ehud Barak weighed in. His poetry is considered to have given voice to the Palestinian experience of exile, occupation, and infighting. Exile, he said in a 2001 interview, is more than a geographical concept. Darwish's death in August 2008 drew the equivalent of a state funeral, and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas declared 3 days of mourning to honor him. He is buried next to Ramallah's Palace of Culture at the summit of a hill overlooking Jerusalem. Darwish's fearless depictions of the conditions of a people forcibly detached from their land express the importance of belonging and home for the human soul, in addition to revealing the pathology of an international order that justifies uprooting people through the use of cold militaristic force. Darwish's poems are especially provocative in the social and political context fostered by the imposing wealth of the United States, where a 2010 military budget of almost $700 billion reinforces a superficial sense of strength but weakens the cultural core. The American reliance on military force has dramatic effects on much of the world, but particularly in the Middle East. From 1976 to 2004, Israel received the largest share of American foreign aid. Psalm 3. On the day when my words were earth, I was a friend to stalks of wheat. On the day when my words were wrath, I was a friend to chains. On the day when my words were stones, I was a friend to streams. On the day when my words were rebellion, I was a friend to earthquakes. On the day when my words were bitter apples, I was a friend to the optimist. But when my words became honey, flies covered my lips. Darwish's unique voice even resonates soundly through this poem in prose, From Memory for Forgetfulness, his memoir of Beirut during the Israeli bombing of 1982. There's no flavor we might label the flavor of coffee, because coffee is not a concept, or even a single substance, and it's not an absolute. Everyone's coffee is special, so special that I can tell one's taste and elegance of spirit by the flavor of the coffee. Coffee with the flavor of coriander means the woman's kitchen is not organized. Coffee with the flavor of carob juice means the host is stingy. Coffee with the aroma of perfume means the lady is too concerned with appearances. Coffee that feels like moss in the mouth means its maker is an infantile leftist. Coffee that tastes stale from too much turning over in the hot water means its maker is an extreme rightist. And coffee with the overwhelming flavor of cardamom means the lady is newly rich. No coffee is like another. Every house has its coffee, and every hand too, because no soul is like
another. ضعت برتا سنتين وهي نامت فوق زندي سنتين وتعاهدنا على أجمل كأس واحترقنا 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 واحترقنا. في نبيذ الشفتين وولدنا مرة